This is Patrick and you are trading with Prime. Let's get straight into it while people pile in here. Let's go to the daily chart here on the ES just to take a look here what's going on. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully I'm not too loud or too quiet. Let's do that. Okay, cool. Let's get straight into it. So what we see right now is a little bit of action in the futures session. Pretty choppy week. I don't know. I've looked at this chart 100 times between Friday and today. It's really anyone's guess, but just looking at the bird eye view, looking down from the sky, what I kind of see here, a number of things. First of all, and we could correlate to this to the S&P 500. How's it going, guys? Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if I'm too loud or too quiet. For some reason, YouTube is acting funny, and I don't really see anyone in here. Oh, there they are. Okay, maybe it's a glitch. Okay, guys. So what we're looking at, I don't know. I've looked at this chart many times. We could correlate this with the S&P 500. The one thing to kind of look at or keep in mind is we are, even though we're pulling back from the all-time high, this is technically an uptrend. I believe, even though we've gone right through these moving averages, the uptrend's been going on for quite some time. From the low, it's constantly making higher lows, higher highs, and that's kind of what we're up against. In the context of that scenario, this is, like we were saying before, in my opinion, this is a market top. Doesn't mean it has to stay a market top, but as of right now, it is one until that top is taken out. So, last couple weeks, though, what I kind of see and what's really jumping off the page as I'm looking at the chart in real time is I see this pattern where you see a lower high, excuse me, a lower high from the top, and then one step further, you see a lower low, and then you see an even lower low, and then it puts in this high over here, almost looking like a shoulder pattern or two shoulders and maybe an inverse head and shoulders. I don't really know. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is we see this bottoming area here. We broke through this, let me do this. It's like a wedge pattern coming in like this. We broke out through that wedge pattern. We back tested once, we back tested twice. And if I brought you over to the S&P 500, you'll notice there's actually a gap in this area. And so we found support on that gap twice. So it is a little bit of a mystery that we haven't fallen through the gap, especially with the news of the president going to hospital and then contracting COVID. One last thing I want to look at as far as this pattern goes is we do see a bottoming area. On top of the breakout, we do have what looks like a flag, and then we've just been consolidating. And then what I want to do is something a little bit different today because a few people have asked me this question, and what I want to do a little bit is go into support and resistance, and not necessarily like support and resistance 101, but just like how I use support and resistance. So if you guys are day trading or if you're swing trading, it really doesn't matter what time frame you guys are trading on. It can be applied to any chart you're looking at. It doesn't really matter the chart. And there's a bunch of different takeaways from it, but just to show you, give you an idea of how I like to do it. And it eventually, and I've heard this from a lot of different places and videos, that it becomes an art form. And that's kind of half true. Like trading over time, you can kind of figure out what the market is trying to signal. Sometimes it's too late. Sometimes you can have a beat on the market. But other times it's just more of a matter of picking the way you want to be bullish or bearish and knowing what price level you're going to be wrong. So the way I use support and resistance is, of course, it's common practice slash knowledge slash, I don't know how common it is. The higher the time frame, the more likely an area is going to be support and resistance. And as we dive down, so those of you, maybe we'll use the weekly chart if we're in a free fall, but maybe it's not as important when we're doing our day trades, if that makes sense. But I'm going to go down to a daily time frame again. Let me go back over to the SPY. How's it going, guys? Happy Sunday. Thank you for joining in with me. Guys, I'm two viewers, 2 subscriptions away from 200. Thank you all for being a part of this. This isn't like I want to blow up a YouTube channel and like be this like YouTube person. It started because I was just trying to help other traders, and like, so it started because traders spend a lot of money paying places to teach them how to trade. And so I wanted just basic area to show people how to do this and what I like to do, you know, whether it's right or wrong, what I like to do in my trading. So far it's successful, but so thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for asking questions and being involved. And finally, thank you for helping other traders. And that's, most people who have been with me from the beginning know that the one thing I asked them, or a lot of them anyway, was as long as they can help out one other trader, do your best to help out other traders. Okay, so back to the business here. So support and resistance, Again, any time frame, it doesn't matter. What I usually find support and resistance, it's off of the daily chart. And so there are a lot of different areas we can find support and resistance. The three main areas that I found to be the most successful are what are called breakout candles, which are the large green candles on the screen, the lows of those breakout candles, the highs of the candles that fall through, or that what I call reversal candles. When you see these large red candles, those are reversal candles. And so what I find is that you will see resistance at the top, and that of course is the time period that I use. I like to use the upper part of the wick, but it also depends on what comes before that candle. Sometimes I'll use the actual open and close, especially if the open and close is on a gap. For instance, you see this 328.73 on the screen. That came from this gap. The if price came through and filled the gap, that would be the gap, closing the gap window. And so, of course, that's when I wouldn't use the high of the candle. I'm not going to use the high of a candle that shoots into a gap. And the gap I'm referring to, just so you guys can see it, is this gap right here. There's a gap in between price. So I'm not going to use, I don't count overnight session to filling the gap either. So if the futures go through it and fill the gap, I don't count that. But I will count the close price of this huge green candle down here, and I will count that as support. The reason why is because if price starts to fall through that level, it's higher likelihood that price will want to come all the way down to the low of that candle. So that's a good place to go long for that reason. For one, there's a million other traders that use that same analysis, and so price seems to, sometimes it doesn't even fill the gap all the way. It'll turn around and take off to the upside. Now, as far as resistance goes, same thing with if price is coming back up. I look for the huge red candles like this. Maybe it's this one right here. As far as breakout candles and then reversal candles to the downside, breakdown candles, whatever you want to call them, the final piece of evidence for where I find support and resistance is what's called consolidation, and it's this sideways movement on chart. And as you guys notice here, just when I put the boxes up here, you can see why price had a hard time falling through here, and it also had a hard time getting through this price area right here, because you have consolidation in this area and you have consolidation right here. Price is having a hard time getting through there. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with this is that sometimes price, if it has a hard time getting over resistance, what it likes to do is it likes to gap above it. So you see in this pattern right now that you guys see on the screen, you see a little bit of consolidation here after it had an up move. Price is having a really hard time getting up to the north side. So it'd be really funny if we saw some sort of, let's say, stimulus or some sort of news that gapped the market higher the following day. I do see the market is up right now. I have no idea the news. Maybe it's because Trump got out of the hospital. Whatever the news is, doesn't matter. It's just the point is that there's consolidation here. Market is having a really hard time getting to higher prices, so therefore it likes to gap above or gap below said areas. So that was, take this for what it's worth as far as coming into tomorrow. Anything is possible. What I've seen the last couple weeks since this bottoming action back here is this looks more bullish to me than it does bearish, with the context of this to me is also a top and a market high, and maybe we won't get all the way up to the all-time highs again. Maybe we will. Who knows? What was the last piece of that? Okay, now that's the daily chart. So now I want to go down to the hourly chart. I'll try to go through this pretty quick. I might even put a video out about this, because I've had probably 3 or 4 traders ask me this weekend, at the end of the week, ask me how I find support and resistance. So I like to put a chart on the screen just like this. Here's the hourly chart. I don't like to look at extended hours because I want to know where the gaps are, if that makes sense. I want to know that there's a gap right here. And then finally, with one last thing with that support and resistance, the more times we come down and back test this gap, the more likely it is that price is going to want to fill it. So keep that in mind. Because of this candle we saw on Friday, that is a pretty bullish sign to the market. Not only that, we had a back test of that price area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. Let me really zoom in so you can see it on your screen here. Okay, so you see where were we looking at here? Now I lost it. Okay, here we go. So here's the gap right here. You see price on Friday. It was selling off pretty hard in the futures overnight when it had bad news. That was Thursday going into Friday. Friday, it found support. It immediately rallied away from that area. And then it came down and back tested. This one candle right here is pretty strong evidence that is very bullish for price to come shooting into support and then rally away from it really fast. You want momentum. The faster it rallies away from support, the more likely it is that you'll see higher prices in the future. So right now, I don't know where SPY is sitting at 336.40. And so, well, that might have been That could have been the close. No, that's up here. Okay. So we gapped higher a little bit. I could go over and turn on. Let's do this. I don't know if it'll actually be up yet. It might be not. Might not be ready for that, but let's see what price is at right now again. So around 336. It's not to the penny. It's never to the penny, but so back to the point. And again, guys, if you have any questions while I run through this really quick, brief rundown of support and resistance, go ahead and put questions in the comment section, and I will try to respond to those as soon as possible. Okay, so what I'd like to do first is I'd like to look at the hourly chart. So I just gave you one reason why the market could be bullish. It found support at the gap, and then it back tested the gap. But again, if it comes back in there, let's say tomorrow morning, I would not, it's possible it holds, but it's not as probable, if that makes sense. The more times it bounces into support, the more likely support is not going to hold. One thing I see on the screen right now, and I just, I don't know, there could be well, we do have this falling wedge pattern, which can develop into something bullish if it breaks out, which it did. And then because there's a gap here, you could go ahead and draw on a wick, because that's what we would see in the overnight. And again, it looks like a bull flag pattern. And if that bull flag played out, where would it go? It would go up to the highs of the next huge candles that we see, which are these ones up here, or we go into the consolidation period right around here. So this brings me into the day trading point of view. If you guys are day traders, if you map this out in your hourly charts, if you map this out in your daily charts, and you have your price levels somewhere near each other, excuse me, and then you map this out, let's say I'm going to be day trading and I want to scalp this. You want price to be shooting up with heavy momentum, in my opinion. The more momentum, the better for that area to act as resistance. Now, if price, let's say, trickled up there in the next few days, it would be less likely that this area would be resistance. Just like price is falling down. If price is trading down fast, it's more likely that the gap holds, versus if price slowly works its way down there over the course of a couple of days, and it's slowing itself down as it gets closer to support, it's more likely that will shoot through support, if that makes sense. So that's keeping that in mind. Put our price levels back up here. You want price to be shooting up heavy. So you could either, one of two things happens. This area up here is going to act like a magnet, and it's going to pull price up to it. So for the long side, if you wanted to take a trade to the long side, what you could do is you could say, put a price level across the screen just like this, and you tell yourself, okay, well, price gets through this price level, this closer resistance, pulls back, maybe back test, and then once it makes a higher high, that's when I like to enter to the long side if I'm going to scalp. Or you could honestly, you could enter down here, but I want to see more evidence. I'm gonna wait for the higher high, and then I'm going to enter to the long side, and then know this area up here is most likely going to act as resistance. So when price gets up here, you could either flip that trade into maybe take a short trade, just knowing that if you get above this candle over here, or if you get above this candle over here, that would be a good area to take a stop loss. So I'm going to give you the high is 342.63, and the high of this one over here is 347.54. Excuse me. I hope that makes sense. I hope it didn't go super fast. It would probably take an entire video. So I've talked about this for about 10 minutes. It would probably take an entire video to go over support and resistance. So again, this is the hourly time frame. If I go down to the 5-minute chart now, and let's say scalpers like to use a 5-minute, I don't ever trade on anything less than a 5-minute, though I know a lot of traders do. But for the purposes of this, I'm just going to stick to the 5-minute. Because again, it works on all time frames. So when you're actually looking at the chart and you're getting down here, and I know it feels like a sell-off. Like for instance, Friday morning, we came into the day. There are a lot of traders who went short Friday morning. Instead of closing your short position because you're at the top of a gap, which is likely to be support, a lot of traders entered short at Friday low. And then especially right in here, Friday midday, when price started selling off, they entered short again, probably getting stopped out. Anything is possible coming into tomorrow and the beginning of next week. By the way, there's a lot of earnings coming out in the next couple weeks. So I believe we have the banks reporting first, and I think that the earnings start on the 11th or 12th. Banks come first usually. So we'll see how the earnings coming up. We have the elections coming up. We don't need to guess where the market is going. We could simply use technical analysis days in advance. We could even flip it over to the weekly chart and look at the weekly chart, remembering that prices like to act as a magnet. Sometimes price likes to go back test. If I go back to the daily chart, price likes to go back test. So for instance, do not be surprised to see price get up here and start coming up here to back test one of these resistance areas. And as it gets closer to the next resistance area, that area will become a magnet. And then if price can get above that, is as it gets closer to the top resistance area, it will start to act like a magnet and pull price up to it. If you are going to short trade it, that would be, in my opinion, the best place to take a short trade if price did get to there in the next couple weeks, preferably sooner than later. Okay, that wraps it up for that. I want to get to your guys's. I'm not going to go over broad market analysis today. I wanted to just go over support and resistance. Let me catch up through comments. And again, feel free to ask any questions about the support and resistance. Oh, and by the way, one more thing with that. I also like to, if you can find another reason to line up your support and resistance other than just, you know, a gap or a high or a low of a candle, or an open and a close of a candle, if you can find another reason. So I'm going to zoom in here. Actually, let's go down to the hourly chart, because I just saw something on the hourly chart a couple minutes ago that I didn't point out, but I thought was interesting. And of course, this is the hourly chart. It's just lower time frame, and I don't know how I did this. I saw this on my, maybe it was from here. Did I see that? Okay, so as you can see, if I can start building a case for why price would want to be up in this area, you know, maybe this would be, maybe if we can make one more higher high compared to this high over here, put it, get a different color, compared to this high over here and this high over here, if we can make a higher high like somewhere up in here, you can see why maybe price wants to go up here and back test and then begins to roll over. The thing is that we don't know that it's going to do that. What I'm saying is if it does do that and it does roll over and it creates a higher, or I'm sorry, if it creates a lower high, that would be a lower high or a lower low after hitting that resistance, then maybe that could be a nice area to short trade. But I just saw this in real time, so I wanted to show you guys in real time what I was seeing. Not just support and resistance, but if you can line it up for another reason, other than maybe it's one of the indicators you guys like to use, like the MACD or any other kind of indicator. Maybe you can find something else. I'm not much of an indicator person. I have implied volatility on the chart, which I don't really know why I have it in the option chain. I don't really need it, but okay, so that wraps it up with that. If you guys would like, feel free to start posting your questions on support and resistance, or really any questions you guys might have, or start posting your ticker symbols in the watch list, and we will start looking at these. Okay. While I'm waiting for you, guys to post your tickers, I am going to go over to okay, let's do this. By the way, I put together earnings reports. I know how much you guys love earnings reports. So I have 1013, 1014, 1016. Some of these might be a little early. Some of them might be a little late as far as the run-up goes. We could just go through them. The banks, and this might be a thing, is, well, let's look at the banks here. So we do have some banks. Well, we also have J&J reporting on the 13th, but we do have JPM, Citi, First Republic. So of course we probably missed part of this run up. I don't know if I would necessarily want to enter some of these. That bounce that we just saw recently in the earlier this week, excuse me, earlier last week, that probably would have been the bounce to enter some of these. What I'm looking for are earnings reports going all the way out till the end of the month. So that includes Apple. I believe Apple reports at the end of the month. We're coming into earnings season, so this is very, things are going to get really interesting. Let's say that. And for starters, we want to see how the financials are doing. They've been terrible this year compared to the rest of the markets. Let's go over to your guys's, were they call outs? What were we calling this? IPO? No, not IPO. Oh, by the way, if you want to see what I'm watching this week, these are the ones I'm watching this week: ACI, ADS, PCG, SPG, Xerox, and KO. Actually, I think I'm in SPG trade. I'll have to go look. You know, it's too many trades when you forget. Okay, let's go to your guys'. Was it on watch? Is that it? I think it was on watch. I think we were doing on watch, right? if I remember right. I'm gonna start closing these. If you guys want these back in the watch list, feel free to ask me for them again, or put them back in the watch list and we can take a look at them. Well done for those of you who did okay this week on these. Well done for those of you who tried to do okay this week. And those of you who are, if you're having a hard time making money, well, it's not easy. First of all, it's not easy. It's not, it takes a long time. It's not easy. But if you are needing help, if you're struggling, feel free to DM me. Feel free to ask me on stream. That's why we have these streams. If you have any questions about your trading that, it feels like the trade's always going the opposite direction, I totally understand the feeling. It happens to me a lot. I'm not going to lie. You guys know what I trade. I post the alert. So, okay, so let's go regen or regen. Okay, let's go to the daily. We'll just look at all these in the daily chart. I'm not 100% convinced. I do see this last, like I was saying, there are these resistance candles, and this is one of them. It doesn't mean price can't go back up to it and go back up to it and back test it. And as it gets closer to that price level, it's going to start acting like a magnet, like we talked about. There's also going to be resistance up here around 613, 612 if it does for any reason get over this candle. However, to me, this is looking more, in the context of the long run, it is definitely bullish, but in the context of the last few weeks, it looks like the chart is starting to roll over. Remember the Walmart trade we took a couple days ago where you started to see the chart curl? Of course, Walmart was curling like this. You start to see the chart curl like this, and then you see this last couple days where it's a red reversal candle, a breakdown candle. It's below two of the moving averages, the 20 and the 50, which, by the way, I wouldn't put a lot of weight in because we've been chopping back and forth through the 20 and the 50, so it's probably not as relevant as the 200. So if for any reason price does start to fall down here, maybe it's a bearish flag pattern. It wants to go test that 200. But I'm going to leave you with this as far as this chart. Be careful with it testing the 200 period because we've been hovering above the 200 for several days now, for a couple weeks now. So it would not necessarily hold that true as far as being 100% convinced that that 200 period moving average is going to hold it up. However, let's go to the day or the weekly chart and see if there's anything else that we can see on the weekly time frame. It does look like price has it did break out down here around 431. This area, you see a little bit of consolidation here around that price too, but the original all-time highs was up here around 598. We're now below that price level, below the 598. So it's kind of in the middle of no man's land. It does look like it's building energy to do something. The question at this point is, what is that something? Is it going to break down, Is it going to find support and rally? I would not be surprised to see price want to come down here and back test 500 to 504, though I don't trade this stock. I don't know if I ever have. So I don't want to give misleading information. It definitely can be bullish, but it looks like it's curling over like it wants to come back down to back test something. I just leave it at that. Guild. Come on, work with me here. Work with me. Okay, Guild. Definitely, as far as the daily chart goes, this is more concerning looking than it is bullish to me. It's below all three moving averages. That is a little scary looking, but we are back down here. What are these? The February prices pre-COVID. So I would not be surprised to see price find support in this area. However, again, another one as far as a bearish close, looking bearish on the day on Friday's close. It could rally here, and I'll zoom in on that in a second, but let me go to the weekly really quick. When I'm not convinced of what is going on with the chart, sometimes I like to look at the weekly chart. And even the weekly chart looks like it's having a really hard time around this 60 area. It came back to this area, found support, and what we like to see in charts is we like to see it rally away like it did back here on 2017 to 18. And so we've been trading sideways ever since. Well, up and down off of that price ever since. And like we were saying in the beginning of the video, the more price comes back to support, the more times it wants to quote unquote back test support, the more likely it is to fall through support. So to keep that in mind on the weekly. Back to the daily. Let's zoom in here. Higher or lower highs, lower lows, below all three moving averages looks extremely bearish. However, as long as it stays above this price, and I'll give you the price, 61.65. If it stays above 61.65, and where I got that price level was from the low of this reversal candle. I know it's a red candle, but it's a hammer candle. Let's in theory call that a reversal. As long as price can stay above the low of that candle, which I believe was on the 924. If it can stay above that, it can be bullish, but I would want to be more convinced by seeing higher prices first, in my opinion. Let's add this to the Jill. Okay, thank you for those. Piton. Okay, Piton. There is, who says that there's nothing bearish on this chart? Frost. Dave, that's a Frosty. Nothing bearish on the chart. Absolutely not. It's in an uptrend above all the moving averages and higher highs, higher lows. It looks like it just broke out. However, it found a little bit of struggling. It was struggling a little bit to get above 110. It wouldn't surprise me to see price consolidate a little bit at this level. Let's go to the weekly, only because, I mean, even the monthly is going straight up. So at some point, this is going to correct. It's going to pull back. It's going to come back. We don't know when that is, of course, but don't be surprised if you see that happening sometime soon. Even the weekly chart, it's almost going straight up. So we have to expect that. Are these last four weeks, is this exhaustion volume? Are traders, maybe it's exhaustion volume, maybe it's not. It's hard to say. Volume isn't everything, but I would not be surprised to see price pull back a little bit or trade sideways a little bit. But if you're already in the trade, there's no reason, in my opinion, to get out of the trade. I would set a stop up here below last, either Friday's candle, or if I zoom in on this, you could even set a stop down here below this candle. The low is 99.31. So maybe price wants to come back and back test 100, and that would be a good area to do it. Just keep in mind on a daily chart, it could look like it's going to come back to back test. Maybe it falls through a little bit and then goes back above to find support. If it did, that'd be extremely bullish, because you did see how price ran up here and was rejected off this area before, had a hard time getting through that area. So now that we're through the area, maybe it wants to come back and back test. But again, there's no reason to sell it, in my opinion. SQ. Thank you for SQ. I'm glad that's on the list. I'm in a long trade right now on SQ. A couple people reminded me probably wasn't the best entry. I am a swing trader. We will see. We'll know tomorrow. That's for sure. It definitely bullish. Same scenario for Square goes, as I said, for Piton. Definitely bullish, but we are getting pretty overbought or overextended. There is a rejection in this area from previously, so I wouldn't be surprised to see price just trade sideways from here. That's all absolutely possible. And if it does trade sideways, remember from the beginning of the video, the more likely it is to go higher. We haven't seen a rejection yet, but it's possible. Where run? I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I'm gonna put all these on a list and say exactly what I said about Piton and Square. Same exact scenarios we just saw in the last two. And this is the thing is we really got to start to look and really ask ourselves, how long is this sustainable? How long do we think that this is going to last? Were we a buyer up in this area, or were we a buyer down below at lower prices? You do see that where price did, and of course this is the weekly chart, you see where price ran up, had a hard time getting through. It finally did get through, and then it back tested, and the back test I'll show you is on this candle right here, and then it rallied away from there. I wouldn't be surprised to see price come back down here to back test 56 area. And I know that seems like a really far away from current price, which it is. Just keep in mind, did I buy this last week, or did I buy this? Am I looking to buy this? If I'm looking to buy it, keep this price action in mind, because one day, we're all too familiar with what happens when price comes back. When it pulls back sharp. This is already up 930% from the lows, which are, when was that, in 20? Was that this year? Look here. Yeah, 920% from the March lows. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you see it trading sideways, that's a good sign that it's going to want higher prices. If it gets rejected, you'll know, because you'll see a huge red candle. Okay. Whoops. No reason to exit the trade if you're in the trade, in my opinion. Tesla. So, I thought we already had... No, don't delete it. Where'd my drawing set go? Default? No. Oh, what happened? Anyway, Tesla, same scenario. It's you know, a lot of these are what they say overbought, but it can continue for it could go to 1,000 this year. So you know, and it's really one of those scenarios where anything is possible. One thing I did see on Tesla recently was, I don't know if it was this, was it this? It might have been this scenario where it would, at some point, it's gonna be likely that it's gonna want to pull back. And if I zoom in just a little bit on it, if I do this, just so I can kind of see the price action. If I pulled the trend line like this, it would make sense that Tesla would want to pull back. In fact, it's making like a bull flag pattern. So it would be, I don't know if it's how likely it is. It might be likely, it might not. You did see an extremely bearish close on Friday. I wouldn't say the candle itself was a reversal, but maybe it needs a little, maybe it does need to come back to this trend line one more time, or maybe it needs to trade sideways. But one thing is for sure, the more it runs a test up here to this downsloping line, this downsloping resistance line, the more likely it is to break out, the more it runs up into there. So if this does pull back, I'm not a buyer Tesla, but if it does pull back here, I absolutely would be a buyer, even if a lot of people know how bearish I am, on some companies. Tesla is one of those companies I'm extremely bearish on for biased reasons. However, I would love to take that trade if we did find ourselves pulling back to that trend line, or trading sideways just a few more days, maybe this week. Possibly look at it again at the end of the week. Or who knows, maybe we'll break out in the next couple days. So we'll see. Bullish. There's no reason to, again, depends on when you bought it. There's really no reason to leave the trade. Okay, let me catch on comment. AMD. I'm in an AMD short right now. And I don't know, maybe we'll get stopped out tomorrow. We'll see. Again, AMD is bullish. There's same thing. You have this move back here, which had a really hard time getting through. Once it did, it broke out back here and then back tested, and then has put in like a bull flag pull pattern, and now it's trading sideways. I know it doesn't feel like it because that's a pretty wide range to go from 70 to 100, but technically speaking, it's trading sideways. And not only that, we're in the middle of a range, and this is the range that it's in the middle of. So price really needs to get, there's two things it's got to do. It's got to get above that resistance level that it just found resistance at, and then it's got to get, and then if it did work its way up there to all-time highs again, that would be a good area to possibly consider taking profit / lowering risk / if you want to enter a short trade. In my opinion, it's best to do these short trades like we talked about at the beginning of the video, where price starts to act like a magnet as it gets up here. And I'm going to do this. This becomes a magnet, and not only that, there's a gap right here. There's a gap right here in this area. Oh, come on, work with me. Don't do me like this. Okay, there we go. There's a gap right here. So, of course, maybe this is a move higher. It's just pulling back a little bit to build energy, and then maybe it wants to break out. Let's see what happens. It needs to stay above this price area right here, and that price area is around 79. Let's just call it $80. Maybe price wants to back test $80. And I tell you what, if it did, I would most likely, well, for sure, most likely exiting my short trade. But not only that, probably exit it before we even get down there. But if we did get down there in the next couple days, I would be looking for a long trade. Okay, AMD. Let me catch up on comments really quick and we'll run back through. Okay. We'll probably go for another 10 minutes. I like keeping these short. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys are good with that. I'd rather keep them short than that. We were doing like hour and a half, 2 hours before when we first started, and I like these short ones, but if you guys need more time, then let me know and we can see what we can do to make it happen. Okay, so where we leave off? AMD. Okay, WDC. I like Western Digital. They've been around for a long time. They've got to be making other, you know, they've been around for a long time. The thing is that it did find support down here. So there's two ways you could look at this, and I'm gonna do this, and this will, if I could put this in your guys' minds, as far as, again, I know the way I do this isn't everything, and this is just where I found success. So take it for what it's worth, as far as, you know. Okay, here's the thing. So we rallied away from this area. We've created a gap, and this is, you can't really see it on the screen, but there's a gap down in here. Maybe you can see it on the screen. There's a gap down here. So as long as price stays above this area, which I'll give you an actual price, the low of this candle over here is 35.36. And I don't mean intraday, because intraday could always go through that price area. As long as it closes the day above that price area, it can stay bullish, and this could still be a bull flag. And I know there are people that are saying, well, that was too long ago for it to be a bull flag. That's not necessarily true. We saw the same thing in Boeing after the March lows. We saw the same pattern in Boeing that, you know, was clearly bullish coming off of the March lows. But this is the thing. It needs more time to get up in this gap up here. And you can see the gap on the screen. There's actually a gap up here. It needs more time to get above that. So with that, the way I view this is, well, there's two ways. One is it shouldn't be down at this gap again. It's a little concerning that it's back down here. It's already back tested it once, twice, and now we're coming in a third time. You really want that trade off of the first or second time. Again, it's the same story. The more it does this, the more likely it'll want to go fill that gap and fall to make lower prices, possibly even coming down to this price. But again, it's at the low of this candle. So yes, you could be long at this price area and stay long until price falls back below that line. And the reason why I say that is if it does fall below that level of what did we say, 35.36, if it falls below that level, and especially if it closes daily or the day below that level, it's going to want to go all the way down here to the low of around 33, which is, I'll give you that price is 33.88. Call it 34. Price is going to want to come down there. It really shouldn't be down in this zone. It really needs to get going. And what I mean by that is if I go back to this chart, it needs to start taking off here. It could be a higher low if I looked at it in terms of this was the March low. It made, let's call this zone up here a high, and now here's a low, or here's a higher low, and we need it to close up here. We need it to start making higher highs and higher lows. We need it to get back above the $50 area. So again, the last thing is this, it's a flag pull, and then it's a flag until it's not, right? But we are at the low end of that, so technically you could be long in this price level, but for my personal taste, it's not the best kind of a setup as far as I would have wanted it on the first two go arounds. Let this thing rocket on Monday, and then message me. Okay. Apple. A is for Apple. I don't like, oh, you know what? And let's see what else we have for the Qs in here. Any other QQQ stocks, NASDAQ? Okay, so here's the thing is, as far as Apple goes, there's a lot of them. If I go across the board, if I go across the board, look at the FANG stocks and really look at them, a lot of them look very similar. They had extremely bearish closes on the day. I wouldn't say Apple's extremely bearish on the day. I don't mean it in that kind of context. I just mean lower prices. The type of a candle that this candle had on Friday was pretty bearish, not bullish as far as the rejection. We saw this, especially saw the same thing in Tesla. And we were short, playing Tesla. We were short going into Friday, covering. It rallied, and I didn't necessarily personally want to enter that again, especially holding it over the weekend. But a lot of stocks put in pretty bearish closes. There was a cyclical rotation. It was sector rotation. You saw a lot of movement and money being flowed to other things, especially the S&P 500. Money flowed into the SPY coming out of the NASDAQ, which is funny in itself. But just looking at Apple for a moment, it's almost the same scenario where you have a bottom here. We could treat it as a bottom. We do have a high up here. We could treat it as a high. We can trade the in-between range. You do see a move off the bottom. You do see a bull flag pattern, even though it was a bearish close Friday. You could be long at this area, but don't be surprised if you do see price falling back here, coming back down here again. And one more thing while we have this on the screen, we do see this falling. I don't know if this was a wedge back then, but we do see a falling channel slash. I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a channel. However we want to draw this, it already happened. It's almost irrelevant at this point. But the thing is it broke out and it's been going sideways. But this is a more of a bullish type of a pattern, in exception of Friday's candle, if that makes sense. Let's put Apple. Apple's on the screen. What's the next one? Did I skip? What did I skip? It looked like I skipped something up there. Did we do Xerox? We already do Xerox? Look, I'm skipping around now on the list. No, I'm going in the right order here. Okay. Gil. Gil might move on Trump taking. Oh, I never thought of that. That's right. He took. Yeah, I would believe that it would. And that's the thing. I'm so busy to a lot of times even look at the news. That will most likely have an impact on it. I mean, I can't imagine why it wouldn't. It should, but we'll see Monday. Okay, Xerox is on one of my lists for my Prime list, the one I had up on the list. I do like this candle on Friday. I do like it's above 2 of the moving averages, and the reason why I like it is because this 200 period moving average, we've kind of been rallying up there. We rallied up off the March lows. We've been trading sideways in a sense, and so as we get closer to the 200, it'll start to act like a magnet and pull price up to it. It does need to get above this area though. I see a pivot from back here on 6-8, and so far we've ran up, traded sideways, we pulled back a little bit. We put in almost like a doji candle down here, which is a reversal candle back above the moving averages. There is one more thing though, as far as the bearish side goes. I wouldn't necessarily look at this chart and tell you do this. I wouldn't count these moving averages, the 20 and the 50. I would not say that they are support or resistance because we've already traded through them a few times, so I wouldn't really count them. It's almost like a lot of financial stocks, like they've chopped through those moving averages so many times that I wouldn't really hold weight in them. However, extremely bullish day as far as the candle goes, and I would like to see a little bit of continuation. If there is continuation, keep in mind there is going to be resistance right here. This is the last little bit of resistance that's got to get through. So maybe you see something like this. Maybe you see it pull back a little bit, and then do something like this where it starts to make higher highs and higher lows. If it begins to make a higher low, that would be a good place to enter, or just simply wait for the breakout, back test, and then take off. Something like that. Okay, Ben, be in. Okay, so same thing. It was almost like a bullish engulfing candle in the middle of a flag. This might be one of those scenarios that by the time we're able to trade it, maybe it might continue in the morning without us, kind of thing. That's a pretty bullish candle. Off this low down here, you saw a gap up here. That gap's going to start to act as support, and it kind of did. So price opened up in the gap. It didn't even fill it all the way and then rallied away from it. So I would consider that definitely support. It does need to get above this area. It might be having a hard time getting above that area. You might just see it tomorrow gap above that area. Or, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't want to necessarily say that. Keep in mind though, like if it does get above this area, there is a little bit of resistance here. If it doesn't get through anyway, there's resistance up here. I'll give you these couple areas. There's some right here at $20.98. Let's just call it $21, and then you'll see some up here around $20, $22. In fact, at this point, I don't even know if I would consider this $21 resistance anymore. It's been trading just under it for, all week. So I would maybe up here, there'd be a little bit of resistance, 21.30. But again, it does need to start taking off. We don't want to see the curling action, like it's starting to curl here. We don't really want to see the curling in that direction. We want to see the curling in the up direction. Okay, Ben. Those two stocks will spike tomorrow. The remdesivir or the what were we just talking about? Oh, the Trump medication. Okay, Chewy. This is my kind of setup. I don't necessarily like trading Chewy, but if I was, this is my setup that I would like to trade, and I'll let me dive in here. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. So obviously bullish pattern, obviously off the March lows, but this little bit of action right here, and there's a reason why, is we have to start anticipating this is what's going to happen because we see it over and over and over again in the market. You see this reversal. This is definitely a market top or a Chewy top. This is definitely a top. There's no question about it. Since the top, it has sold off. It's made lower lows, lower highs, but then it found support, right? And not only did it find support, it found support at previous resistance, almost like it just came down to back test and now it's going up again. But further than that, the reason why I like this is because you see this huge green candle right here. And then as far as that was Thursday's candle, it broke out and then it had an inside day, which is just consolidation. This was the day to get in, technically Friday, but of course it's Friday. Who wants to enter a long position on a Friday afternoon or whatever time that was? But it's definitely consolidation. You're really close to risk, right? Because if price falls below the risk level, it's probably going a lot lower. And I don't think it would fall to here as support. I think it would go all the way down to maybe around here. So let me do this, clear it up one more time. If we fell through the risk level, which I'll give you the price in that risk, it's the low is 55.30. If price fell through that and started trading to the southern side, it's going to want to come even further than that, maybe down to $53. And then below that, even 51.31, around that price area. Below that would be the most amazing short trade, in my opinion, that you could take. However, that's why I like this trade, is because it's so close to the first risk level that it's one of those trade setups that it doesn't mean it's more likely to go to the north side, but there's enough time in here. And what do I mean by time? There's enough space in here to where price will have an easier time getting through resistance. In fact, it's more probable that it's going to use these areas as magnets than they will actually be resistance, but it'll give you a nice target to the upside. So if I did a risk to reward, you're risking if, let's say, price opened up around 56, 54 or whatever, let's say it opened up and you went long, you're risking 2.5% to make anywhere from 8%, 15%, 23%, something like that. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm just saying that as far as risk versus reward goes, that's the kind of setup that I like. But that was a bullish day Thursday. Okay, well, let me get off of that before I bore you. I'll put you guys to sleep. Cron. I just looked at Cron. I haven't traded pot stocks since 2018. Well, most of them anyway. So something I want to do. Something that I want to do. Okay. So penny stock land, right? 27 cents, 17 cents was the low. You chopping around. It's starting to pick up steam back here and then goes into 17, 18. You started to see these pretty extreme prices back here, right? Going into 17, 18. And then it starts trading sideways, rallying higher to a high of $25.10. Does anybody know what it was around 2019, right? What we have, the farm bill. And I remember at the time, like, all of the pot stocks were rallying into that farm bill, and there were so many people who thought these things were going to go to $100. And the reality sets in that it's a sell the news event. And to be honest, it's like, let's get real here. This is up in a matter of a couple years. It's already up, 8,000%. So the reality really sets in, like, profit taking, possibly. Maybe this is profit taking. It's not like a complete sell off, but if you did buy up here on the highs, you're already down 80% of your, it's already pulled back 80%. So, anyway, let me get off of that and just go to give you your daily. The reason why I say that is because that's kind of where I see the market right now. I see the market with insane valuations. It doesn't mean that the market can't keep going higher, which it definitely can, and we can position ourselves to continue to make money. What it means is, don't be surprised if you see the rug get pulled out from underneath the market. Just really got to be cautious with some of these valuations. Okay, some of the market caps are pretty up there. So I don't necessarily know if I like this as far as this kind of behavior where it puts in this reversal and then it trades at this angle down here. It's a bear wedge or bear flag, or it's not bullish. However, with that in mind, you do have a low down here, which was a March lows, and then you have a higher low. This could be setting up to in order for this to be a bottoming pattern, we do want to see it start to curl, and that would give me more of an idea that it was becoming a bottom pattern. We want to see more evidence. So in a stock like this, what I would want to see as far as evidence is higher highs and higher lows. This chart is making lower lows, lower highs, well, just from 8/14, from the beginning of August. And what was that, earnings? This is making lower lows and lower highs. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean also at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily short it. It doesn't mean short. we're getting closer to support as we every day that goes by we're getting closer to support. It just means I would be cautious trying to go long on this without waiting for the actual setup. What did I say? 10 minutes? Did I say that 30 minutes ago? Okay, let me go through Cron. Thank you, Audrey, for that. Textbooks, Head and Shoulders. Short is good. I think everyone's just yeah. Hey, thank you, Carl. Thank you. X for the ticker. X. I mean, we have time. I just, I don't want to. You guys are putting you guys to sleep. I'm cautious about these ones. It's just really this wavy action, but this pattern in itself, to me, can be more bullish. It hasn't been rejected yet, and I know if you really look down, it has been. The problem with this, it's been making lower highs over the period of time, so you're more likely to go short and make money. Wait for the price to rally. It's kind of like HSBC, where you just wait for HSBC to rally. Every time it rallies, you can just short it again. Every time it rallies, short it again, and you're more likely to be successful than if you try going long and kind of pick the bottom. But just going back and looking at X, it's like same kind of scenario where it's just lower highs, lower lows. The one thing it does have going for is this area that I was just showing you is this, the one thing is this definitely looks like a bottoming pattern, or it was an oversold bounce. Maybe this whole thing was a dead cat bounce, but this could be looked at as the pull, and this could be looked at as consolidation. So until and unless it starts getting back below, and for a chart like this, what I really want to see is I could go over to the daily or to the weekly chart, because there's so much consolidation in here, and this might paint a little bit better of a picture. And in fact, for a chart like this, you might even go to the monthly chart. I know this is a little extreme for what we're trying to trade, but where is the price going? Where is it going? This could be a bottom in here. Maybe it's not. But now it becomes a little bit more clear. This could be a bottom. So if I was going to trade this, I'd be cautious about entering this. Let's do this. Let me zoom in one more time and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Can you see that? Blow it up. Okay, so here's the low. As long as price stays above these higher lows, and in fact, I wouldn't use this red one. I would actually use the low of this green one, right? And that price is, and it's probably far away from price right now, but low $6.63, and right now you see the price $7.65. I know that's really far away. So what you could do is just wait for this thing to actually set up, draw a line somewhere, put a line across like this, and then figure out where that comes in value on the daily chart. And of course, this is the monthly chart. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But so that really you have to ask yourself, is this something I would want to trade on a? Is this something that would make me more successful in my trading? Is trading this kind of pattern, this kind of chart? Technically, the time to enter was on 925, and we are in a bull flag from then, so I wouldn't be surprised to see higher prices coming in the next week. But where is it going to go? Is it going to turn around and go back the other way? That's we'll have to see. Dwayne, thank you. Amazon. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for the compliment. Amazon. And Amazon was the same as similar to Apple. Same kind of scenario that I see. Very bullish day on Friday. But something that we have to keep in mind, a lot of times the market wants us to think that it's putting in a bullish close for traders like me who are looking at that. And not that I would enter a short trade on Amazon at the end of the day on a Friday, but just hypothetically here, it does look like an inverse head and shoulders if I'm looking back from the 9.3, 9.4, 9.8, excuse me. Maybe that's a shoulder, maybe the other one's a shoulder, maybe there's a neckline in here somewhere. This could be a inverse head and shoulders. And if we did a measurement on that, let's do this. I hate to measure something that hasn't happened yet, but if it breaks out, when it breaks out, you could measure from the the head to the neckline, whatever that is, maybe 12%. And if I pull it from down here, depending on where I pull it from off the neckline, you couldn't go by percentages. You actually should go by $280 wherever you measure to the neckline. Maybe we can do the same measurement from the neckline out 12 or $280, somewhere in there. And by the way, remember what I was saying with support and resistance? We want to find a similar area to start to target, and this would be a beautiful place. If I did something like this, you can see why it would be somewhat of resistance. And if price can break out, that's exactly the area that I'd be targeting. Maybe we don't have to take it all the way up there. Maybe we can start taking profits before that, probably at the open of this candle, which is 3307. Let's call it 3300. I can see why 3300 would act like the magnet, but we will see. But the type of candle that put in Friday, I do have to say is pretty bearish as far as the daily candle goes. Maybe it wants to fill that gap and come back down to 3093, somewhere in there. Maybe it will find support. But looking across the market, I would have to assume that the FANG stocks, including Amazon, are going to be somewhat pulled with the market for the most part. Or, well, we didn't really see that Friday, but usually they're pulled with the market or they pull the market, one of the two. It would be interesting to see this gapping higher on Monday and Tuesday, but I don't know. We'll see. Are we done with these? Catch up on comments. You guys are going too fast here. GMGI, is that it? Walking Dead. I haven't watched that in a really long time. Audrey asks if I think it's better to watch the news or not watch. Do I think it's better to watch the news or not watch the news for trading? I don't. I rarely watch the news. I watch price, and that's because and I'm not saying it's my trading might be different. I'm not saying this is wrong or right. I do like to see headlines. I like to look at go into the different resources that we have for headlines. Like go to Google, type in stock market news or whatever. Any types of apps you guys have on your phones that you get the live news feed, which I have a bunch of them on my phone. I get I get a few of them on my phone. Some of them I turn off. I like to see the sentiment as far as the daily sentiment. So in the morning before market open, I like to go on and I like to actually see what the market sentiment is. But I don't trade news itself. I don't try to anticipate what the news is going to say. However, the only exception to this is I like to know what the macro is. So when the Fed is speaking, I want to hear what he's saying because I want to know if I want to get a, you have to put the pieces together. All right. Or what I've learned is that putting the pieces together over time is how we get the data. So, excuse me. So we might have an idea about what the GDP is. And when the GDP news comes out, it's going to say the GDP is at whatever percent it's at, which is probably a lie anyway. And then the news comes out, the market rallies. And then a month later or a few months later, we're going to get a revision of the original number. And the funny thing is that you see the market react to the original number. It'll rally 600 points on the GDP numbers or the manufacturing numbers. But then when we get the revision, the market doesn't care about the revision, which is always, I always thought was really interesting. How the market doesn't really care about the revision. It cares about the first number that comes out. Unemployment, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like unemployment, the numbers that come out. However, I do want to I want to hear what the Fed is saying. I want to know what the clues are because the clues will be left for us and we can kind of gauge what sentiment is turning into, especially with the bad news. But if we try to chase the news, these hedge funds are going to beat us. It's hard to chase unless you're a day trader and you're just profiting on the scalps. Was that a long enough answer? And I know I just skipped through a lot of these comments. It's taking me too long to go back through them. What else has something too long? Oh yeah, by the way, thank you, Carl. Feel free to like the video if you've gained value, subscribe if you're not, subscribe, bell notification. We go live every Sunday. And rtbtrading.com, the link is in the description. I'm going to do this last one, GMGI, and we are going to go as long as I have gotten through all the questions. And I feel like I skipped over a couple of them. Walking Dead starts in 9 minutes. That probably already started. It's starting right now. Okay, GMGI, and I think that's gonna do it. Yeah, absolutely right, Dwayne. That's how I feel. It's like, yeah, it's like a EKG. Okay, my advice on the news. One last piece on that. I'm a swing trader. You guys know, like I I'm not going on a lot of my swing trades. I'm not positioned as far as my overall account. I'm not 90% in one trade. You know, like I might be like 5% in a trade or 2% in a trade. Sometimes I'm 10% in a trade, but it's a little bit more rare. And so I'm swing trading. Like I'm not trying to blow up my account. We're trading options. So when what happens when we know that news events are around the corner or slash earnings seasons around the corner, how are we going to position ourselves? It means taking risk off the table. You know, we got to be really careful. Beautiful chart. Thank you for this GMGI. I'm going to put it on here. There's your technical analysis on it. Beautiful chart. Did I already put it in here? Yeah, I didn't. Okay, so beautiful. I don't even know what they do. It is a little concerning. In March, they were worth 20 cents, or they shot down. It might have been an algo or something. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say they were worth 48 cents. 1,500%. I don't know. What do these guys do anyway? Anybody know what these guys do? Live news. Gaming industry, huh? Dollar quarter, first $1 million quarter. Oh, no wonder why they're these 425,000. The question you have to ask yourself, guys, is this, and I'll leave you with this. Well, first of all, I love the chart. It's beautiful. I might even take a trade on this week as long as the price stays above $5. Absolutely bullish. However, with that in mind, this has rallied 1,300% this year, 1,400%. Does that mean they've gained? Excuse me, they've gained in revenue 1,400%? Have they gained in employees 1,400%? Have they gained in all of the other areas 1,400%? We have to really ask ourselves that. Is it likely to see this one pull back? We have to be very careful when trading these kind of things that are up a lot. Oh, this isn't going to work. It's going to show me all the... Not going to work. Casino software. So yeah, I mean, maybe this one likes to run every time you see the gaming, the airlines, casinos, banks. Whenever those ones are up, this one probably be up too. We'll see what happens this week, but I do like that price action. I like where it's headed. I like this. This pattern is definitely bullish. Why is it doing this? The pattern is definitely bullish. Right, it rallies up here. It even did a little bit of a retracement, back test, rallied again, and it's really having a really hard time falling out of the sky. It doesn't want to fall out of the sky. It wants higher prices. So it would be nice to see this bull flag pattern kind of play out. You saw support. It came back down here and made some support. It rallied and then it's traded sideways. It would be more probable, in my opinion, to head higher than lower. And if it did head higher, maybe this would be the first stop. And then again, up here, and I give you two prices, and then I'll leave you guys with that. 605. And up here at 691, you call it $7. Thank you guys. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Hit me up in chat on here. Leave a comment on the video. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask away. And we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys.